Hello and good morning everyone, and welcome to our Sophos webinar this morning. So we are joined by James Burchell from Sophos and Helen Murphy from Bytes.
Thanks, Amy. So good morning everyone, my name is Helen Murphy and I work in our vendor solutions team, specialising in security solutions. So the reason behind today's webinar is that a lot of feedback we receive from our customers is that traditional antivirus products can get in the way of performance in a virtualised environment. And we'd like to present to you Sophos' solution. Today you can learn about how you can protect your virtual machines without compromising on performance. So Bytes are currently providing the full portfolio of Sophos solutions from endpoint, mobile to network security, and being a platinum partner we have a great relationship with the Sophos team across the board. We can also provide professional services through our trusted partner ecosystem, so please don't hesitate to get in touch with us after today's webinar. I will now pass over to James to begin his presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Helen. Sorry about that. So hopefully everyone can see my screen, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. My name is James Burchell. Thank you to Helen and Amy for the introductions, and I'm a sales engineer here at Sophos. And today I'm going to be sharing with you really two great ways that you can protect your virtual machines from malware. And first off, really, we're going to get started though by looking at some of the challenges of securing virtual machines with traditional antivirus products. So traditional antivirus products involve installing a client or even an agent, if you want to call it that way, to each server or workstation. The agent then kind of receives policies and updates from a central management console, and it may send alerts or logs or messages back to that console. However, all of the hard work in scanning the files and protecting the actual local system is handled and managed by the actual agent on the endpoint. So this makes perfect sense where each server or workstation has its own dedicated hardware. But when you consolidate systems onto a single host, you end up with many different virtual machines, each running those independent agents. So this really does introduce new challenges, as we're going to see over the next couple of slides. So the first challenge then we can really kind of group into performance and scalability. And on a standalone system with several gigs of RAM, an antivirus agent that uses maybe only a couple of hundred megs is not going to be noticeable. But if every single virtual machine on a physical host has the same agent installed, it could add gigabytes of overhead to the actual system. So this could limit your consolidation ratio, as we see with the graph here on the left, as the number of virtual machines you can actually support on a single host goes up. Also affecting performance then are things like scan storms and update storms. And as you know, virtualization is really designed to take advantage of the fact that different systems do different things at different times. It doesn't do nearly as well when all the virtual machines are trying to do the same thing at the same time. So if things like your antivirus policy directs the agents to run a scan at, say, 11 o'clock at night, and at 11 o'clock at night all your VMs start scanning simultaneously, then your host resources are going to go way up, and its performance is going to go way down, as we see on the graph on the right here. And this is what we call a scan storm. An update storm is really similar, except it happens when all your systems try to update things like their definition or install maybe product version updates at the same time as well. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge then is really with traditional antivirus, is managing protection in a dynamic environment. So if you manage a virtual infrastructure today, this may look familiar. Virtualization has made it really easy to create, clone, suspend, resume, and even move machines. And the result is that it can be really difficult to keep up with your inventory. So regarding security, it's easy to end up with machines that don't have an agent deployed, or therefore maybe potentially unprotected. Even machines with an agent may have then outdated protection until they next receive an update, leading to a potentially large protection gap, as we would call it. And this is really where they are vulnerable to more of the recent attacks. And for those of you who are subject to compliance requirements and even things like actually reporting which systems are protected, this also may be another challenge. So when it comes down to security and virtualization, vendors have really then started to develop two different approaches to address these challenges around performance, scalability, and also with management. So the first approach is pioneered by VMware and its vShield endpoint technology, is what we would call agentless or thin agent antivirus scanning. With this technology, the scanner is moved from each VM to a centralized virtual appliance on every single physical host. The centralized appliance, known as a security virtual machine or a SVM, is then dedicated to scanning on each VM. You simply have a small driver or a thin agent that can communicate with the SVM. So this provides a number of benefits. Now, first off, the SVM can then coordinate the scanning to avoid using too many of the physical host resources at the same time. There is also only one system to update the SVM. That avoids things like update storms, and since the SVM is always on, it can easily stay up to date, eliminating what we talked about with that protection gap. The vShield endpoint technology is also designed to ensure that VMs start communicating with the SVM, and are therefore protected literally as soon as they come online or resumed from a suspended state, for example. And finally, as this graph shows you, replacing separate agents with a single SVM actually reduces the resource use and allows for better scaling of your virtual environment. So that's the first approach. The second approach is agentless. Well, agentless antivirus, I suppose, that is great technology, which we're going to come on to a bit more later. But if it isn't right for you, then you need to think about how you could protect your virtual environment, as agentless scanning isn't right for every single environment. So the second approach then, or an alternative, is to use endpoint security that is optimized for use in virtual environments. And with this approach, you still have an agent on every single virtual machine, but the goal is really to minimize the impact of those agents on performance and to really simplify the management. So to accomplish these goals, lots of security vendors can optimize both the agent and the management experience. And on the agent side, this can include things like reducing the resources used by the agent itself, keeping updates small and non-destructive, and also making use of the memory sharing available on certain hypervisors, such like VMware ESXi. Management optimizations as well can include things like deployment options that reduce the risk of unprotected VMs, things like the ability to stagger scan times to avoid scan storms, and also maybe even flexible update policies to balance the risk of update storms and also maybe that outdated protection. So really what we want to look at is, let's have a look at Sophos can really deliver that best-in-class solutions based on both of those types of approaches that many vendors actually offer. So our solution is, or our agentless antivirus solution, is based on VMware's vShield endpoint technology. And it is Sophos antivirus vShield is what we call it. And this product provides fast, lightweight security for both the virtual desktop and also for virtual servers. And the Sophos endpoint antivirus is available on its own or as part of one of our end-user protection suites. It is an optimized endpoint for security for all of your virtual desktops. And the same great technology is also available for servers in Sophos Server Protection. And as you can see from the information on the slide, we work really closely with Citrix, VMware, and Microsoft to ensure our products work seamlessly with the most popular hypervisors that are available on the market today. So as we discussed earlier, things like agentless solutions like Sophos Antivirus vShield use a centralized scanner to lighten the load on your virtual machines and your hosts. And as you can see here, our offering is especially effective in keeping its impact to a minimum in comparison to competing products. And things like, would you rather have that question of, would you rather have file server throughput slowed down by 20% or maybe less than 5%? It's pretty much a no-brainer. You obviously want to get the most out of your investment in your virtualization technology. And like with all Sophos products, our slogan really is, security made simple. And that simplicity extends to Sophos Antivirus for vShield. And where some products like deep security require their own dedicated management console, Sophos vShield uses the same console as our endpoint antivirus. And that's one fewer kind of consoles you have to worry about building, maintaining, maybe learning about, and also use. And in version 1.1, we also actually even introduced a step-by-step deployment wizard that can deploy the SVM, or the Sophos Security Virtual Machine, to a single host, or to all of the hosts in your data center. So you can use one installation wizard to roll out that security VM to your entire virtualized estate. And finally, as well, we actually also offer straightforward, easy-to-follow documentation to help you really get up and running. And our installation guide is, it's less than 50 pages, 10 of which require legal notices, and so we're talking, under 40 pages, and also for things like legal notices around open source code. In comparison to something like maybe deep security installation guide, which is around 154 pages long. So I'm not sure what really they have in there, but maybe they're not following the same ethos as Sophos of keeping things simple. But finally, also to note is that we really include a scriptable command line tool that can also show you which VMs are protected by which hosts in your data center. So this really then makes it easy to create automated compliance reports to keep your auditors happy as well. But so if Sophos vShield is starting to sound like a good fit, it's kind of worth asking a few questions to see if it really will work or is optimal for your environment. Because we use the native VMware vShield endpoint technology, Sophos vShield requires you to be using VMware, specifically the ESXi hypervisor and the vSphere management layer. Now, VMware only makes its vShield endpoint driver available for Windows systems as well. So you can only protect Windows guests with Sophos vShield. And finally, Sophos vShield is best for environments where performance, scalability, management, and compliance are really your priorities. So you may be wondering what other priority there could be in a virtual data center, and the answer, I suppose, is maximum protection. And it's that age-old discussion of performance versus security. But Sophos vShield does provide outstanding file-level antivirus scanning, powered by Sophos Labs. And it also includes things like our behavioral genotype protection that can identify previously unseen malware by its malicious characteristics, as well as a great feature called live protection, which looks up suspicious files in real time to promote up-to-date protection against things like zero-day threats. And because there's no agent as well running on the virtual machines, Sophos vShield does not provide the depth of protection offered by a full endpoint solution. So if you're able to check all of those boxes you see on the screen, then Sophos vShield should do a great job of meeting those security needs that you need for your environment. But in case your environment isn't a fit, we can also actually offer another solution through our optimized endpoint and server products. So in contrast to Sophos vShield, Sophos endpoint antivirus and server protection both offer a full stack of protection layers. That includes things like URL blocking and web content detection, I should say, to prevent malware from reaching your system. And with tools like HIPS, or host intrusion prevention system, and buffer overflow protection to stop malware before it can even damage your system. And our endpoint and server products are also optimized for virtual environments. The agent is really lightweight, and all of the layers you see on the left of the screen are integrated into a single agent to avoid simplicity of bloat, I suppose, and simplify things like updates. And in fact, actually in 2013, the AV Comparative awarded Sophos its Gold Award for Best Overall Speed among endpoint antivirus products. Our updates are also frequent and really, really small. The typical definition update is just around 30 kilobytes in size, and really the agent is designed to take advantage of also things like memory sharing on ESXi, which reduces the total memory footprint when you have it running on multiple VMs. On the management side of things, we offer a free tool called the Virtualization Scan Controller. Now, this will allow you to stagger your virtual machine scan times to avoid things like scan storms that we previously talked about. We can also offer a range of deployment options and update options. along with things like knowledge-based articles outlining stuff like our best practices, really helps you configure the environment for maximum protection and minimal disruption as well. It's also worth mentioning that we actually protect one of the broadest selections of operating systems in the industry, covering many different versions of Windows, Linux, Unix, and Mac OS X as well. So whether you use SAV for vShield or Sophos Antivirus for vShield, or Sophos Endpoint Antivirus, Sophos Server Protection, or even a combination of any of those, you'll be able to manage your entire environment from one single interface, from one single management console. And the Sophos Enterprise Console, and for any of you who haven't seen it before, is here on the screen, was designed to put the information you need most front and center, and really to kind of keep everything else just a few clicks away. And even setting the antivirus policy or enabling things like sophisticated features that we would call the Host Intrusion Prevention System, or HIPS, is as simple as grouping your systems together and literally just checking a few boxes within the Sophos Enterprise Console. Something else that I haven't actually talked about yet is Sophos Cloud. And there is a new feature within Sophos Cloud called Server Protection. And this feature is unique in a number of ways. First off, it lets you manage Windows servers separately from your endpoint computers. Secondly, it lets you apply security policies to particular servers or servers, no matter who actually logs on to that machine. And finally, it actually automatically recognizes certain common server applications, so things like Exchange or SQL databases. So you don't need to set complicated scanning exclusions for those particular servers. So what we end up then with Sophos Server Protection is user-based security policies which follow users across devices, platforms, and locations, while the server-based policies provide that granular control to optimize server performance. Therefore, you have one real integrated, lightweight protection agent that stops malware using multiple layers of protection, including things like that web exploit detection, sandboxing, HIPS, and a load more that we've already talked about. It also actually keeps your protection current using automatic updates and real-time lookups of suspicious files over any kind of internet connection. Further to this, another exciting feature soon to make its way into Cloud Endpoint Console is Windows Server Lockdown, allowing you to add an extra layer of security to your back-end infrastructure by locking down the exact operating system and application levels of your servers. But you don't just need to take our word for it about these great solutions. We have a report from the Tolly Group that found that Sophos Antivirus for vShield consistently outperformed things like Trend Micro Deep Security 9 and the McAfee New in virtual server and virtual desktop environments, or VDI environments. And as you can see actually from the information on the screen, competing products can slow down virtual server performance by as much as 34%, which is really more than enough to be noticeable to your end users. And Sophos Antivirus for vShield, in contrast, according to Tolly, demonstrated low impact on file, database, and application server performance. So if you'd like to read this report, it's available on the Sophos website, or please feel free to contact your Vice Account Manager, and I'm sure they'll be able to pass this report on to you for you to digest. So really then, to summarize, traditional antivirus really struggles with performance, scalability, and management in a virtualized environment. Agentless antivirus is an ideal approach for dynamic environments where virtual machines are being created, stopped, and also started very frequently. Sophos Antivirus and vShield really outperformed its competitors and is really, really easy to manage. When you need the best protection with lighter impact that the many traditional antivirus solutions, it's time for the Sophos Endpoint Security or Sophos Server Protection. And both of those provide real layered security and a range of optimizations designed to keep the performance impact and management burden as low as possible on your virtualized environments. And Sophos Enterprise Console is a single interface that is easy to use for managing all your agentless and endpoint security. So that really sums up the presentation. Thank you very much for your time. What I'd like to do now is just open up the floor to some questions. And what I'll do is hand back to Amy, who will hopefully be able to collate those questions. and I will do my best to hopefully answer them on the phone right now. So Amy, over to you. I don't know if there are any questions already as we've been talking, or if you want to give it a couple of minutes to allow people to submit them in the chat window.
Great, thank you, James. I do have a question, but please, feel free to put them in the chat window and we'll read them out. We've got some time left. So just a question regarding vMotion. Is the agentless solution compatible?
Yeah, great question. Yes, we are compatible with vMotion, but the SVM, so the Security Virtual Machine, or what we call the Sophos Security Virtual Machine, that in itself actually ignores vMotion altogether. So what I mean is the SSVM is tied to the hypervisor, so it's tied to the physical host. The other machines you can use in vMotion, so you can still move machines around from host to host. Not a problem. The benefit of having the SVM tied to the physical host and the hypervisor, that means that any machine, literally as soon as it comes onto that host, is automatically protected with the most up-to-date kind of definitions and protections. So you can still use vMotion for the rest of your machines. It's just the SVM itself kind of ignores that feature. It's designed that way. But yeah, good question. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. And a couple from Alex. Can you clarify if this requires a vCenter server in the environment, or can it use the free VMware hypervisor? And also, do this also support a separate management network to the production network?
Right, yes, so you will need the VMware infrastructure, as the SSVM will report into vCenter as well. I believe the minimum version you will need will be 5.1. The requirements are on our data sheet on sophos.com, what back-end VMware infrastructure that you need. Yes, it will work. I mean, as it's reporting into the Enterprise Console, it will work across various networks. As we can already have various networks reporting into Enterprise Console for endpoint agents. If you're talking about cross domains, then again that's absolutely fine. Really, what you're then going to have to look at if it's multiple domains is looking at the global register and then synchronizing that into the Enterprise Console. So again, depending how you've got your network deployed, could maybe be in more of an in-depth question. But yes, it will work across domains is the short answer, I suppose, if that helps answer that.
Great, thank you. We'll send that data sheet across to you as well, Alex. Oh, sorry, one more question. So Alex's hosts are on a separate network to the production VMs.
Okay. Maybe that's something we need to take offline. If it's a completely separate network, but if you've got trust between the networks and you have, I don't know if you're an existing antivirus customer already, but if it's on a separate network and that network has trust to where your management console resides, then it's not a problem. If you'd like to just clarify that, I mean, I'm more than happy maybe to take this offline. Amy, we can get the details and we can speak about that. Just so I can get a better idea of how your network looks. But in my initial thoughts and from what it sounds like, it shouldn't be a problem.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, Alex, we will get in touch after the webinar. And another question from Alistair. What is the upgrade path for this from other Sophos products?
Okay, yeah, so if you have the agent deployed already in your virtualized estate, then that you can remove that and well, you just simply install the SVM. So the actual technical upgrade path is very straightforward. As soon as you have that SVM installed and you meet all the VMware requirements, then those machines automatically become protected, so you can remove the local agent. If you're talking from a licensing perspective, then I'm afraid I don't want to say I stay away from it. I'm a more technical person, so you'd have to get in touch with your account manager if you would like to discuss how to maybe switch over your current licensing to more of a virtualized licensing approach, or the agentless approach. That would be something you'd have to discuss with your device account manager.
Yeah, perfect.
I hope that helps answer the question.
Thank you. Yeah, Alistair, we will get in touch because I guess it depends on what you're using at the moment and everything like that as well. And One more question. So if I decide to use the full Sophos agent on my endpoints, what features will I benefit from?
Okay, sure. So yeah, I think I listed a few in the webinar, but essentially the Sophos agent, the full agent, is everything you have access to in the enterprise console. So Sophos truly believe in security in depth or defense in depth. So that's everything from the antivirus, hits, the cloud lookup, zero-day protection. But then it's all of the other features that you could possibly make use of, so application control, data control, device control, patch assessment, web filtering, web control. There's a lot of different features that we believe should be deployed when you're protecting your endpoints to give that layered security approach. So if you're going to use security is really important to you across your virtualized estate, then that full agent is able to actually deliver, all through one agent, is able to deliver all those features. So there's a lot to check out in the enterprise console. Hopefully that answers that question.
Wonderful, thank you. And one more question, how does cleanup work?
So when the agents report into the enterprise console, any errors, alerts, maybe say around a malware detection, will also be alerted in. Then from the SSVM, you can find out which machine has reported that console, and what we'll then do is able to push the Sophos virus removal tool to the endpoint for it to then perform cleanup and then remove itself as well. As there's no agent to actually perform the cleanup, we have to resort to this method. It also actually then helps keep the endpoint footprint really, really small. So going with the whole optimization story for a virtualized environment. That's how it would work. So you get all your errors and alerts reported into the console, and from there you can then clean up any malware or resolve any issues from the console. Hopefully that's answered that question.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Do we have some more?
No, I think that's all the questions.
Okay. It would be good though to get in touch with, if I can help at all, Amy, with anything to do with the licensing questions or regarding that network question, then yeah, please just let me know.
Great. We've just had one more pop up. So we have remote desktop servers in our virtual environment. What do the RD users see? I think.
Yeah, the remote desktop users.
Remote desktop users.
Sure, yeah. If it's a terminal server that they're logging into, then the agent itself can be installed on that server. But as far as your end users see, if they're, say, launching their own session, then they won't see anything on the endpoint because we're tying in with the actual VMware tools agent. So it's it's cheeky to say, I mean, everyone says it's agentless technology, but what we're using is using that vShield agent that already exists by VMware being installed on the endpoint. So that's all that we interact with, and so therefore that's all that the end users will see. So you'll be notified in the enterprise console of any errors, alerts, or anything like that, but the end users themselves won't even get a tray icon in the virtual machine. So hopefully that's answered that question.
Thank you. I just have one more question.
Sure.
If the EC is running on a VM, what would the performance constraints be with using this agentless product?
Sorry, SG Safeguard EC, sorry, was that the question? Could you repeat that?
Sure. If the EC is running on a VM, what would the performance constraints be with using this agentless product?
I'm not sure I understand the question. I don't know what the first bit is. I don't know if someone can clarify that one. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. Sorry, I don't think I understand the question. Apologies if I'm misinterpreting it or not understanding that fully.
Are you able to clarify, Alistair? Or should we all get in touch after the webinar?
Yeah,
both ones.
Yeah, we can speak, yeah.
Oh, if you have the enterprise console running on a virtual server, what would the performance constraints be using the agentless product?
Oh, right. Oh, I see. It's very kind of hard for me to say at the moment what the performance constraints would be. on that machine. Obviously, it's designed for minimal impact. Very much just like it's reported and protected exactly the same as any other agent. I think it's maybe certainly worth having a chat with Alistair if he's open to that. We can maybe talk about if he wants to understand the solution a bit more, and maybe how he could maybe test it out for himself and see firsthand how that would impact the server. Also, then it's been optimized for all the server applications as well. So with the category shield element, if you can install the agent on other virtual platforms, it could be Windows platform, then the exclusions will obviously have to be put in place as well. But for the Sophos Enterprise Console, if it's to protect that server, then there will be no exclusions you have to be put in place. So if it's just a dedicated server for the Enterprise Console, then absolutely minimal, very much like every other endpoint with regards to the performance.
Great.
Yeah, maybe it's worth taking this offline. I don't know if that made complete sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
thanks, James.
okay. No problem at all.
Is there any more questions? I think that's all the questions that we have.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be in touch to those people that asked questions to make sure you had the answers that you needed.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Thanks a lot, James.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for the questions. Have a good day.